going to get started. I've got a quorum. We'll have some other council members join us in just a moment. Will everyone please join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for joining us tonight. It looks like we're going to have a public hearing or two. I'm glad you could be with us. We appreciate that you've taken time out of your evening to attend your local government at work and be a part of it. I want to highlight that this agenda tonight includes 3 different parts to reflect the business of the local building authority, the redevelopment agency, and the city council. I want to make that distinction just for your understanding. When we're elected to the city council, we don't just serve as city council members, we serve as the board of directors for the RDA, or the redevelopment agency, and also as the local building authority. And we need to conduct business, a bit of business tonight in all 3 of those categories. So you'll see us switch between wearing those hats. We're going to begin with the business of the local building authority, or the LBA, and then we'll move on to the RDA, and then finally we'll get to the city council business. Third, to start the meeting, we've laid out some guidelines for decorum and civility to make sure that everybody feels comfortable and safe participating when giving public comment particularly. These guidelines apply whether we're acting as the LBA, the RDA, or the city council. So those guidelines are to be respectful during other people's comments. Please don't cheer, jeer, clap, or yell out because it could help or it could make others feel intimidated. Please also help take care of this historic meeting room by not standing on furniture or leaning against the decorative pieces. Brigham frowns upon that. If you have a sign, a prop, or other piece of equipment such as video equipment or otherwise, please make sure it doesn't cause a disruption or block other people's views. Signs wider than your chair can be displayed in the hall. Also, items like sticks and dowels are not allowed in this room. Please don't approach the dais. If you have something, a piece of paper, anything that you want to share with the council, one of our staff members can assist you. Could I ask our staff to hold up your hands, raise your hands so everyone can see you tonight? Thanks. Our staff's here to help you. If you need any assistance or have any questions, raise your hand even during the meeting, and one of them can come and answer that for you. We also recognize that 2 minutes is not necessarily enough time to get out all of your thoughts that you want to share with us. You can visit our website. You can refer to the contact information on there. And also on your speaker's cards, there's information you can give us to contact you. And there's many different ways to contact the council as a whole or individuals. So next, as the local building authority, we're at item A4 in the agenda.
Madam Chair.
We're going to approve the meeting minutes. Yes?
I move that we approve the minutes of Tuesday, May 2nd, 2017, and Tuesday, May 16th, 2017.
Second.
I've got a motion by Board Member Luke and a second by Board Member Rogers. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. And we have a few opportunity. We're in section B, pardon me, the public hearing portion of the local building authority. We have a few opportunities for public comment tonight. We'll call on people based on the comment cards we received, but I haven't received any. So if somebody wants to speak specifically to the local building authority issues tonight, raise your hand. We'll bring you a comment card. If it's about the local building authority, then if otherwise, there's a general comment section and the rest of that later. You can come on up and we will have you fill out that card afterward. And please state your name before you begin.
My name James Berenson, and are y'all, who is this all to address like what the buildings look like?
No.
No.
Not
so
this particular
what
item.
this is in?
Actually, one of our staff can fill you in on what that particular public hearing is. If you have
You
a
said
general
building
comment.
Well, I'm just saying, y'all knocked down all these beautiful buildings that were built way back when to put up ugly glass towers. It's like, it loses, the city loses its character when you just put up these glass monstrosities. they have no character, they have no flair. And I'm just saying, you know, y'all should use some of your fancy money to maybe renovate them so that the integrity of the area and the buildings remain the same.
Thank you for your comment, and we'll ask you to fill out a comment card. Our staff can get to you. Anyone else want to comment on local building authority? Our public hearing, pardon me, I should have read this. It's in the agenda, is the resolution adopting the final budget for the Capital Projects Fund of the Local Building Authority of Salt Lake City, Utah for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2017 and ending July 30, 2018. Anyone else here to speak to that particular issue? If not,
Madam Chair, I move that we close the public hearing.
I have a motion by Board Member Penfold and a second by Board Member Luke. Anyone want to make a comment on that? All those in favor? Aye. That's unanimous and it passes. This concludes our business as the Local Building Authority Board. We're adjourned as the LBA and will now convene as the Redevelopment Agency Board. As the RDA Board, our first public hearing is regarding a resolution adopting the final budget of the Redevelopment Agency for Salt Lake City, Utah fiscal year 2017-18. I have a few cards. First, we'll hear from Mr. George Chapman, and second from Jen Colby.
You know what I'm going to say. I've been saying it for years. RDA should be spending money right now on doing something like a campground or anything to get the people who are congregating around Rio Grande Street, off the sidewalks, into whatever it takes, whether it's a campground, indoors or outdoors, because otherwise, essentially what you're going to be doing is waiting for 3 or 4 years to figure out if your experiment works. But you can find out right now if a campground will work. Just implement it so you can take them out of the Pioneer Park. You want to spend $5 million on Pioneer Park, but why? Again, I'm asking you to actually spend some money from RDA setting up a campground to get the homeless out of the Rio Grande area and into an area where they can develop a relationship with a caseworker and get on the road to a better life. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. Jen Colby, and following Jen, Bernie Hart.
Thanks. I wasn't going to address that issue that George just did, but I will actually second George's comment. I actually think the city should look into experimenting with some sort of a campground facility. Honestly, if I were in that situation, and perhaps in other parts of my life I have been close to that, I would rather be camping in various parts of the city than in some of the shelter situations, and I don't necessarily blame people for making that choice, but I think it's very difficult for a city to manage. So I'll echo George and experiment away. I actually was stepping forward to thank the RDA and the city for hosting the ongoing partnership with the Utah Preservation and with the preservation houses that have been done, Pugsley, and then the most recent one, and I should know the address, but I forgot. Thank you. I attended the wood window repair workshop 2 weeks ago. It was remarkable. The instructor was terrific, and I think it's the kind of thing that helps all of us with older homes, whatever our income levels, help put money back into that, invest in our neighborhoods at a very low entry cost point, and I think RDA should be funding this more. I understand that was funded by a state grant, but I think in addition to those houses, and I would like to see more of those partnerships with Utah Preservation, so we're not just tearing down the old houses, thank you, sir, for pointing this out, and old buildings, but actually investing in them and not seeing them as a barrier to progress, but actually the core of our neighborhoods and the core of our affordability for our city. So I hope that that will go forward. The window workshop was terrific. I hope you can take it. And it also pointed out that wood windows are actually often more efficient if they're repaired and maintained properly, so that also meets city's sustainability goals. And if you can expand this in a systematic way through neighborhoods to invite the public in your RDA neighborhoods to come forward and do these projects together, perhaps with some kits the RDA could provide that you can check out, because these tools can be expensive. You may only need them once. That would be really helpful. Perhaps they could be hosted at a local library like Marmalade. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ms. Colby. Bernie Hart, and he is the final card I have for the RDA public comment.
Bernie Hart, I couldn't pass up an opportunity when the conversation turned to camping. I had to chuckle the other morning on my stroll to the library. I think it was Monday. I came across 3rd South and I saw 3 people sleeping between the curb and the sidewalk directly across the street from the police station. And I'm not judging whether that was right or wrong. They seemed to be at rest and be sleeping well. But I knew they were in violation of camping ordinances and different things. And it spoke volumes to me as to the effectiveness of our current policy of dealing with campers. I see the same thing when I get off the highway on 4 South. And I see all the people that the health department went through and spent thousands of dollars moving and relocating into the neighborhood that where I had a discussion on Monday night with my neighbors. They see an increase in camping in our area, and they're worried about that even before the new shelter comes. And a lot of that is a result of the current camping ordinances and how we're trying to relocate and respond to police calls and all the things that you have to do, but it's not a solution to the problem. The camping and organized camping and learning from where other cities have failed in implementing those ordinances may give us a chance to do what George said, get people into stable situations, the people that won't go into shelters because they're too crowded and they're just it's a jungle. And people that are dealing with a number of mental health issues can't handle that. So providing them with an alternate place where they have a voice in the organization of the community itself, the homeless themselves make some of the decisions, and they're provided with services to move on, may accomplish things that you've been trying to do with all this expensive shelter system. So I'm just asking you to think about it and try and make it space in the budget for us. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Anyone else wish to comment on the RDA public hearing? Otherwise, I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we close the public hearing and refer action to June 13th, 2017.
Second.
I have a motion by Board Member Luke and a second by Board Member Kitchen. Any discussion to the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. And now we are adjourned as the RDA Board, and we're going to convene as the City Council. Swift. Now, acting as the City Council, I look for a
Madam
motion.
Chair, I
Thank you.
move that the council approve the joint meeting minutes of Tuesday, May 2nd, 2017, and Tuesday, May 16th, 2017.
Second.
I've got a motion by Councilmember Luke and a second by Councilmember Kitchen. Any discussion to the motion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Okay, on to the public hearings. For the record, items G1 through G11 are associated with the implementation of the mayor's recommended budget for Salt Lake City, including the library fund for the fiscal year of 2017-2018. This is our third city council public hearing for the annual city budget, and item G1 through G11 are held together. If you're here to speak about the city's budget, this public hearing is your chance. And I've got a stack of cards. Wonderful. Guess what? We're going to start with George Chapman. The early bird gets the worm, folks. And we're going to be followed by Jim Espelund, if you could be ready to come up right after George. Thanks.
Okay, I hate to repeat myself, but 4 pages of public utilities budget does not justify and should not justify a 30% sewer tax increase. It shouldn't justify a 5% tax increase. And actually, you're doubling the tax over 5 or 6 years. It doesn't justify it. So I'm asking you to rethink that. I also have a problem with the voodoo economics that Salt Lake City Public Utilities uses to overcharge golf courses for water. You keep saying that golf courses are losing money only because Salt Lake City is charging them an arm and a leg, a whole lot more than every other golf course is charged in the county and with other municipalities. If you really care about the watershed, where are the restrooms? You're supposed to be putting restrooms up. Salt Lake County is putting a restroom up, but Salt Lake City is not. You're spending $1.5 million for Bonanza Flats, but you are not spending any money on restrooms. If you really care about watershed, you should be spending money on restrooms. The trees issue, thank you very much. I agree completely. We need more tree budget. And I think you should stop the big street projects, 21st South Road Diet, 900 West Road Diet, all those road diets and projects. These are big projects that take money out of street maintenance. And a couple of years ago, you're going to hate me on this, Charlie, but I love you. Okay? I love you, but when you took the money out of the tax increase for streets and put it into a salary increase, you didn't do it deliberately, but essentially you got a pay raise. That was wrong. You didn't do it deliberately, none of you did, but I'm asking you, put the $8.4 million, put it back into streets. It deserves some basic maintenance.
Time.
And it's $40 million normally, but all I'm asking for is about $20 million. Please put more money into streets maintenance.
Thank
Stop
you,
the big
Mr.
projects.
Chapman. Jim Espelin, followed by Danielle Ricci.
Hello, I'm Jim Esplin. I'm not a public speaker, so bear with me. I wrote down a few things. I appreciate the opportunity to express my viewpoint tonight. I've lived in the Glendale area for more than 30 years. I also own 2 properties in Glendale and 1 rental property in Poplar Grove. I've paid property taxes on these 4 properties for many years. I've also paid water, sewer, and garbage on them. I recycle my green waste, but I still have to pay for 4 recycling cans that I don't ever use. And recently, I have to pay a stormwater fee, a street light fee, and a franchise fee. What's a franchise fee? Is that for KFC, or what is franchise? Now we are supposed to cover golf course expenses. I know many of my neighbors, but I don't know anyone that uses a Glendale golf course. These are low-income people that go to parks and they play soccer for fun. They don't golf. I know my neighbors do use the Jordan River Trail, the 9 Trail, the Peace Gardens, and other city parks. I see more people on the 9 Trail than I ever have on the Glendale golf course. Why do lower and fixed income households have to support the very few people that have chosen to play an expensive sport? What's next? A city-funded ski resort? This isn't some monopoly game. This is people's livelihoods, so think about it. Serious. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Espelin. You are welcome to come and do your first time speaking, although I don't think it is. If anyone has an open seat next to them, will you raise your hand? Okay, thank you. Staff, if you can help people fill those seats as they come in, we appreciate it. Danielle Ricci, followed by Ray Wheeler.
Hi, my name is Danielle Ricci. I live in District 4. I'm here because I think the library is one of our greatest assets in our community. As a homeschooling mom, it's my primary resource for teaching my daughter. And I think the library creates autonomy because people can learn about whatever they want to learn about. And I think it's such a great asset that I volunteer for the library. However, not everyone has the flexibility to volunteer, and I think one of the greatest ways we can support the library is increasing the employee rate. I know people who have been employed there, and they've had to leave for other jobs because the wages haven't been competitive with other areas where the jobs are. Also, I think another plan that the main library has is to make attendance for the bathrooms, which I think is a really great idea because the bathrooms get so much use that they need more maintenance than they are currently getting. Also, I think it's unreasonable to expect the library to support Glendale and Marmalade branches with the same budget that they were given in 2004. And they're also planning to cut the late fees, which I think is a great idea too, because it will make it a truly free resource even to those people who have a less stable living situation. So I think if people were given the choice to support this, given the popularity of the Zoo Arts resolution in the past, that they would. I know I would. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ricci. Ray Wheeler, followed by Jen Colby.
I am Ray Wheeler. I want to congratulate Mayor Biskupski for acknowledging so clearly in her fiscal year 2018 budget recommendations that the Gulf Enterprise Fund is still indeed failing financially and will require taxpayer subsidies in perpetuity. To this end, she's proposed a new city ordinance requiring Gulf Enterprise Fund deficits to be paid out of the general fund in perpetuity, thus fulfilling a campaign promise she made at a Gulf lobby rally in 2015. According to a Tribune story today, the City Council has rejected the mayor's proposal to move the Rose Park Golf Course into the Parks Department, and thank you for that, a wise decision, I think, but has agreed to subsidize the Rose Park Golf Course deficit out of the general fund to the tune of $400,000. This is only a small part of a growing stream of taxpayer subsidies to the Golf Fund. Data in a recent council staff report on golf suggests that total subsidies for golf from 2015 to 2018 may be as much as $5 million. The precedent being set is that an enterprise fund has no obligation to balance its budget and can simply pass its excess spending to the general public. Why is such a policy inappropriate? Because golf courses, unlike libraries, parks, or streets, are closed to the general public, charge user fees, and bank the revenue. For decades, the Golf Fund devoted its surplus revenues from flush years to system expansion while piling up a deferred maintenance backlog variously estimated at $20 to $35 million, which can never be paid out of golf system revenues. This spending left no reserve to cover deficits, while at the same time leaving existing courses in poor condition and therefore uncompetitive with the rest of our overbuilt Valley Golf system. Please stop the bleeding by closing financially failing golf courses just as you voted to do in 2015.
Time.
The best use of closed golf courses is to preserve the open space within new city parks, as many other cities have done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler. Jen Colby, followed by Michael Budig.
Thanks again for having me back. Couple of quick comments. I get to disagree with George on a few things now. Regarding the public utilities rate increases, I think it's too bad that we've let deferred maintenance get this far behind. I'm glad to see the administration is working hard to try and tally up the deferred maintenance across the city. And unfortunately, that means we haven't been able to smooth past increases. So I do reluctantly support those as long as they go to really upgrading our system and not just funding the airport, which I understand the state may be helping with. I support Council Member Mendenhall's concerns about low-income residents. I ask that you try and seek ways to help people install high-efficiency fixtures, not just pay their utility bills, and also direct people to other support systems that they may qualify for that they don't realize that will help take the top off that. I also am concerned about street maintenance. $8+ million is far below what we need to be funding to try and catch our streets back up. Mostly as a cyclist, I feel like it's life-threatening. As a driver, it's annoying. Strongly support complete streets and expanding bicycle lanes, especially downtown. If you see a green bike on a sidewalk, that means somebody feels like the street is not safe and we need more lanes, especially protected lanes. And then in terms of the Golf Fund, thank you, as Mr. Wheeler pointed out, for apparently making it clear to the administration that there will be no transfer to the general fund of parallel failing golf systems. It's much less expensive, as far as I understand, to run a general park than a golf course. But it is beyond time to stop subsidizing the courses. It is time to cut that and not have money spent and come back to you and ask for this. It seems like it's the golf administrators are saying, heads we win, tails you lose. Like, we got to keep our revenue, and we weren't like all the other parks while we had surpluses. For 50 years, we'll take the money and run, and as soon as we are like all the other parks, and and we should be subsidized. I think that's just wrong, and it's time to put your foot down and just stop it. So please don't fund any excess.
Thank you, Ms. Colby. Michael Budig, and correct me if I've pronounced your name wrong, please, followed by Connie Madro.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Michael Budig, and I live in Glendale. I want to comment on the assumed liability of the general fund of deficits incurred by the Golf Enterprise Fund. First of all, I want to thank the City Council for refusing to have the general fund assume all responsibility for deficits at Rose Park. You're keeping Rose Park in the Golf Enterprise Fund and limiting the city's subsidy to $400,000. But my understanding of the law is that the enterprise funds are legally required to be self-sustaining. Therefore, it is probably illegal to provide any subsidy at all. As I understand, the Golf Enterprise Fund was initially established because the golf courses were running a surplus and the golfers wanted to fully benefit from the profits. So now that there is a deficit, the golf fund wants to dump its toxic assets and expects the city to take over the debt. If the golf fund can no longer afford to keep Rose Park or Glendale golf courses, perhaps these two golf courses should be decommissioned. The city should not assume an unlimited responsibility for golf course enterprise fund deficits. And if the city is to cover any golf course expenses, it should be very limited and it should be very clearly defined. Thank you.
Thank you. Connie Madro, followed by maybe Allie O'Connor. Forgive me if I got that wrong and correct me, please. Amy, thanks.
Yeah. I'm Connie Madro. I've been a resident in Glendale for over 25 years. And I oppose the use of city budget funds for the purpose of, basically it sounds like rescuing the golf courses. When I don't have budget for something, typically I don't find a big old fund somewhere for me to be able to use after overspending. So I would like to be able to see the continued use of golf courses that are in my West Side neighborhood for something that is of a natural environment so that we can continue to have the world-class bird sanctuaries that we have along the riparian corridor that they are at. I also wanted to speak just a second about the library. I'm a voracious user of the library, and I go into the Glendale Library, and I'm just always amazed at how many kids are there. It's like seeing, a representative from every part of the world there in the Glendale branch, and it's truly amazing. They get so much there. They can have a lot of resources, and I appreciate having that. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you, Connie. Amy O'Connor, followed by Kevin Edgar.
Hello, my name is Amy O'Connor. I live in Glendale. First of all, I want to tell you some of the things I'm really for and I really appreciate. I love the libraries too, as some people have mentioned. Please invest in it. Please invest in the staff. I think that's great. The Bonanza Flats money, wonderful idea. Please help keep that wild. Let's see. Bicycle lanes have been mentioned. Transportation in general, I think we need more bicycle lanes. I'm one of those users that is fearful, especially if there aren't protected lanes. I'd bike a lot more if there were. I also very much appreciate that, at least according to the Tribune, you have chosen not to put the enterprise fund into the general fund. I hope you never, ever do that. I would think that would be a huge mistake for all the reasons that have already been cited. I would like to see $400,000 used in many other ways, and there are many options, obviously. But for example, I just learned that we have dead trees on some of our streets, and it's going to take $500,000 just to replace them, and we don't know where that money's coming from. I would set that as a priority, because that benefits all of the people, not just a select few. Also, let's see, dealing with some of the park's maintenance issues, I think should take priority, or for that matter, other deferred maintenance. Anyway, so there are many different uses. I would like to see taxpayer funds benefit the general public. I've said it, I'll just say it again, instead of subsidizing a few. Finally, and there are arguments about this perhaps as to where golf is going in the future, but the last, since 2006, we've lost 20% across the country. 800 golf courses have been closed. I think we need a forward-looking vision for some of our open spaces. such as, natural open space. But I just came across a really innovative idea, which I really like, which is called an agri-hood. And in a nutshell, these are places where there are developments, and developers are for these things that are centered, as opposed to having a golf course, you have a working
Time.
farm. Thank you very
Ms.
much.
O'Connor. Kevin Edgar, followed by Mimi Charles.
I'd like to thank my name is Kevin Edgar, and I'd like to thank the council for its indulgence. I've worked with the Jordan River Restoration Network project, and I'm a lifelong West Sider. The Jordan River is in my playground, still is. I'm here to ask the council to do not subsidize the golf courses, in short, and to please consider that the Jordan River is where two international migratory bird flyways cross, and the Jordan River is vital habitat for these migratory birds, as well as for other wildlife. I'm nervous. I'm leaving. Thank you.
You're doing great, Kevin. Your time wasn't even up yet. Mimi Charles, followed by Corey, I think it's Minson.
Thank you, Councilmember Mendenhall and fellow council members. I'm here tonight to urge you to strongly urge you to support the library's budget. The City Library offers a broad selection of materials and services, and I'm pleased to share a few examples with you tonight. We're an educational hub with people using our online resources to learn languages, plan their financial future, research school assignments, and get their high school equivalency degree. For those who still like to touch and feel the merchandise, our collection responds to community interests. In addition to books, magazines, CDs, and DVDs, the library offers a huge locally produced zine collection, a local music collection, orange crosswalk flags, sewing machines, telescopes, laptops, Wi-Fi hotspots, and themed story times in a bag. And our programming responds to community desires. Super Summer Reading Challenge has begun, and other popular programs include yoga on the rooftop, preschool dance party, computer coding clubs, adult spelling bees, and writing camps. With June being Pride Month, I'd be remiss if I did not mention that the library hosted the recent Queer Prom Carnival, which was attended by 984 high school students. The library is an inclusive and welcoming civic space for all, proudly providing a second living room, and for some, their only living room. We are passionate about those we serve, and we are intensely community-centric. Whether it's helping a severely handicapped individual just out of the hospital navigate the internet so he could watch his daughter's college concert live online, or partnering with West High School to host an amazing celebration for 75 first-generation graduating seniors and their families. We invited 75 seniors to the party, and every single one of them came with their families in tow.
Time.
With the adoption of the recommended budget before you, I am confident the library will remain strong, sustainable, and cooler than ever. Thank you.
Thank you, Mimi. Corey Minson, followed by James Burnson.
I'm grateful for the chance to be able to address you today. This is actually my first time. I'm a little nervous too, but hopefully I can get out my thoughts. I came a couple of weeks ago and kind of learned about what was going on. I meant to express myself then, but wanted to wait till I could feel like I was doing things the right way. I have come to talk to you today about not raising the water rates. A few years ago, the water rates were raised in my area, and they told me it was because of the drought. Now, we have droughts here a lot. I'm wondering if we really understand what the normal level of water is. Now, we have some awesome pumps out in the West Desert to get rid of too much water, but we haven't used them since they were built. But as I was here last week, something else came to my attention. I've worked in the construction industry for 25 years. 17 of the last years continuously. I see a lot of multi-resident units going up, a lot. And they take water, and the people that are in them are going to need water. I'm assuming that lack of planning on somebody's part is constituting an emergency on my part, and I've got to now pay more for water that was not planned to be there for these units. I know that you've been addressed regularly about changing zoning so that more of these large units can go up. We only have so much in the way of resources. And when it's gone, we're hopefully going to be able to maybe buy more, but it will still be gone. We have a future to think about in this valley. I grew up near the Sugar House area, and I avoid it at all costs. It's terrible to try and get through and around down there. We need to think of the future. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Minson. We welcome you back to any future public hearings you want to participate in. I also want to invite you to maybe, if he's walking out, but we've got some public utilities people, maybe one of you could walk out and see if you could have a conversation. I would appreciate that. I know that you're here regarding those comments. James Burnson, followed by Adam Stone. And Adam is the last comment card I have for this section of our public hearings. If there is also a general comment period coming, so if you want to speak on the budget, please raise your hand and we'll get a card in your hands. Mr. Burnson.
Yes, I was just saying, you know,
Will you pull the mic down so we can hear you? Thank you.
back in 2008, when Mr. Obama, he bailed out the banks and the car company, that was wrong. The taxpayers shouldn't have paid for that. If the golf courses are floundering, the taxpayers shouldn't pay for that. You guys should take up, maybe slash some of your own salaries to subsidize these things instead of making the taxpayers pay for these things. Another thing you guys should make money for is more police officers on the street. Just today, like 5 people got shot in Sandy. You know, the police are underfunded, they're underprotected, and I think it should be imperative that you guys that can do something, you do that. Help these people out that are keeping us safe, because it's a thin line between harmony and chaos. And those are the members of the police are the ones that maintain that line to deter the criminals from doing bad things. And that's it.
Thank you for your comment, Mr. Berenson. Adam Stone, please do not clap. Thank you.
Hey there. Thanks for taking the time to hear everybody's comments. So I think I'm probably echoing what everybody else has said so far, but I'll say it again. 30% is a ridiculous increase, especially for a first increase. If it were maybe something more reasonable, that would make more sense, or if there weren't other places where we could pull that from the budget, such as maybe funding the revitalization of the golf course, I feel like that would be a more reasonable solution, especially with how prevalent drought is in Utah. You would think that we'd want to spend more of our precious resources, such as water, on people that matter and not on a sport that hardly anybody plays. The golf course is suffering for a reason. I'm also an avid biker, and any other funds that we could spend on making our city safer for cyclists would be fantastic. I've had myself and my neighbor struck by vehicles while trying to cycle around the city. It's kind of a scary thing. But yeah, that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. I have Jim Webster up next, followed by Jolene Taft.
Thank you for the opportunity of speaking. I would like to comment on just generally open space. As it stands right now, since I've moved to Utah, which was quite a while ago, the area immediately within the Yalecrest area and extending on up to This Is the Place is lost over 40 or 50 acres of open space. Part of it was the rezone of the property that was defined by the federal government as perpetual open space for a cemetery. That was a rezone from open space to institutional. The LDS Church acquired a good portion of Miller Park. The university just took 4 acres of This Is the Place for a parking lot, and the list goes on and on. I was on Mayor DePaulis and Mayor Wilson's budget committee. I don't know if any of you were around then. Stan, you probably were. I thought that was a very functional group, and I realized that the budget process is a prioritization of how you can best spend the money. I would like to correct a couple of things. One, the Rose Park Golf Course is an important aspect of the flyway. It is not hardscape or something like that. It contributes quite a bit to that. And then, of course, when that enterprise fund was formed, yeah, it did make a lot of money. Where did that money go? It didn't go back to the golf courses. It went to the general fund. So I think you need to look into that, and maybe this is an opportunity to come up with some kind of an equity situation on that. And I support the mayor's initiative to preserve the golf courses. Salt Lake City is known internationally for its golf courses. It's a PR issue as well as anything else. But getting back to the redistribution of open space, I do not understand. I'm a landscape architect. Now I do not understand how you, by converting Rose Park Golf Course to more park space, do you somehow balance the budget. That right now the golf course at least generates some income. Perhaps it isn't enough, but a park generates a zip. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. Jolene Taft is the last card I have on this subject.
Thank you. I'm here regarding the increase in the water and the sewer. Why didn't you address this years ago when you kept raising the rates back then? I got a notice saying you're going to raise them for the next 5 years, so I called the public utilities because I have a rental unit and asked them, how much is my sewer going to go up? Starting July 1st, they told me it will go up over 30%. Well, that's not counting the water. I'm concerned as why does it keep going up and up? What are you guys doing with the money? Do we have to have an independent auditing company come in and look at it? Because the rates have been going up and up for the past previous years. And I mean, 30%, to me, that's like almost $400 more a month. And businesses, they're going to have to pass their increase on to their customers, and landlords are going to have to pass it on to their tenants by raising the rates. I don't understand why I have to budget, everybody else has a budget. Why didn't you start budgeting for all these problems years ago? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taft. I'll recommend to you and also Mr. Stone, who spoke earlier, that perhaps you could speak with some of our public utilities folks in the hallway, and they can at least direct you to some of the resources to your answers, if not talk about those issues right now. That's the final card I have on this public hearing. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we close this public hearing.
I have a motion from Councilmember Penfold and a second by Councilmember Adams. Any discussion to the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes. Pardon me while I catch up here. That concludes the public hearings for the mayor's recommended budget for Salt Lake City, including the library fund for fiscal year 2017-18. All ordinances and budget-related items will be considered for adoption next week, June 13th, 2017. Our next council public hearing is regarding an ordinance amending the final budget of Salt Lake City, including the employment staffing document for fiscal year 2016-17. I don't have any cards on this particular item. Anyone wanting to speak to this item? I'll
Madam
look for a
Chair,
motion.
seeing none, I move that we close this public hearing and defer action to next week.
I have a motion by Councilmember Penfold and a second by Councilmember Luke. Any discussion of the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes. The next council public hearing item is G13 regarding an ordinance amending the zoning of 6 parcels located at 527 through 559 East, 2100 South Street from Community Business District, or CB, to RMU 35 Residential Mixed Use District, and amending the Central City Community Master Plan Future Land Use Map. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item tonight? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the council close the public hearing and defer action to a future council meeting.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Kitchen and a second from Councilmember Penfold. Any discussion to this motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I do. I have a question, just probably a point of clarification, and that is, Is this the property rezone that we're looking at where the individual had more information to bring forth?
I don't believe
There was-
so. Nick Tarbett, do you
There was
could you
question, I
come
can't
up to the
remember
mic?
which, we've got a lot of rezones going on, and that's why I want to make sure I'm clear on what I'm voting on.
No, that's the cottage, the
Yeah,
27th
cottage.
Street
One's
cottages.
in my district.
Okay.
and This one's in.
And that's not on tonight.
Thank you. We did have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes. And we're now on to the potential action portion of our council agenda. Item H1 is regarding an ordinance amending the zoning map pertaining to one parcel located at 1978 South West Temple to rezone a portion of that parcel from RMF 35 residential multifamily to CG general commercial and amending the Central Community Master Plan future land use map.
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt.
I have a motion by Councilmember Penfold, a second by Councilmember Luke. Is there any discussion to this motion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Our next potential action item is regarding an ordinance amending the zoning map for property located at 350 East 800 South Street from RMF 30 low-density multifamily residential district to neighborhood commercial district, or CN, and amending the Central Community Master Plan future land use map.
Madam Chair, I move the council adopt an ordinance amending the zoning map for the property located at 350 East 8th South.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Kitchen, a second by Councilmember Penfold. Is there any discussion to the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're unanimous again. Our last potential action item is regarding an ordinance amending various sections of Salt Lake City Code pertaining to TSA or Transit Station Area zoning districts.
Madam Chair, I move that the council adopt an ordinance amending various sections of the Salt Lake City Code pertaining to TSA zoning districts, and I further move the council modify the land use table so that breweries would be a conditional use in all TSA UC and TSA UN core and transitional zoning districts according to the table listed in this motion sheet.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Penfold, a second by Councilmember Kitchen. Is there any discussion on this motion?
Madam Chair, if I may, council members, you may notice this modification. This came up in several briefings with the staff. Nick Tarbett has been incredibly helpful, and Nick Norris as well. And conversations, there was a modification to our TSA zone that allowed breweries, and the new proposal did not allow breweries. And in talking through the concerns, it seemed like a reasonable solution was to make those conditional uses. There is some concern about the size that a brewery may have as impact to adjacent zones, but those seem to be things that can be accommodated in a conditional use process. The planning department is very receptive to this modification, and I think it's a good direction going forward so that we don't artificially eliminate a use that is currently allowed.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes. Next, we're on to the comments section of our agenda. We want to recognize Patrick Leary, Mayor's Chief of Staff, who's here in the stead of the mayor, and also David Litvak. Any questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'm disappointed to not see the mayor here tonight. She wasn't here last week. You don't have to tell exactly where she is, but is there a reason she isn't coming to these public hearings?
Sorry, she had other commitments tonight, Councilwoman.
Any other comments?
So does James. It's his birthday.
Happy birthday, James.
Thanks.
We will next be taking general comments, and we'll call people again based on the comment cards. You have 2 minutes to speak. You can't secede your time to somebody else. Sorry. Please follow all the rules I talked about at the beginning. Be respectful of other people's comments, etc. We're going to start with, drum roll please, George Chapman, followed by Steve Hartney. We'll go from there.
Let's talk about airport tracks. For 3 years, the last 3 years, we tried to get airport passenger fees to be used to pay for the airport tracks reconfiguration. Salt Lake City kept shutting us down. Now we're in a situation where we're at a standstill and it's not going to be done. It doesn't make sense, and I'm asking you, Salt Lake City, the council, the mayor, the staff, to get behind using airport passenger fees. Other cities do it. They do it very successfully. In fact, the FAA liked it so much, they made the rules more flexible to encourage airport passenger fees to be used for rail and mass transit projects. So please, let's consider that. Also, the UTA board should have an advocate for transit riders. And riders want service. They don't want projects. And right now, the way the system is set up, municipalities want projects. They love projects. So municipalities are well represented on the UTA board, but transit riders that want service are not. Patrick, David, would you please tell the mayor that her constituents want service? They don't want projects. They want service. They don't want her friend on the board. They want someone who's an advocate for transit riders. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. Steve Hartney, followed by Jeff Van Katwick. Correct me if I'm wrong there.
Good evening. My name is Steve Hartney. I'm the current Salt Lake Police Association president. As this is our last public meeting where we're allowed comment before you go into a closed session for the budget, I wanted to inform you that the members of the Salt Lake City Police Association have reached an impasse with the mayor's negotiation team. All of you should have received an email listing some of our concerns, so I would implore you to contact either me or any member of our council. We've asked you to consider allowing for a 4.5% wage increase. This is necessary to support the city's statement in maintaining a pay position of no less than 95% listed on page 5 of the submitted 2017 CCAC report. There's been too many years where we've consistently received the standard 1 to 2%. The budget is not only about money, but it's also about priorities. There'd be a problem in my home if I purchased a new motorcycle and then tried explaining to my daughter that I couldn't buy her school clothes and only listing my negative balance in my register. And it would have to do with the priorities I've set prior to that. We've waited, we've been patient, we've been silent, we've weathered the storms with the city. We've accepted frozen wage steps, the no pay increases, the raising medical insurance premiums, but the recession is over. I've been in these budget meetings when we've heard that the city has received more money than expected, and it's time to start taking care of the city employees. It's not right to hear the mayor's negotiation team submit to the city council that we're at 131% of their local survey. They've also said our wages should be frozen, or if we must receive something, let it be 1%. The Salt Lake City Police Department is the capital police department of Utah. We need to be taken care of, and we can only ask you to help us. The police budget is in an excess of $65 million. To tell us the leftover amount is of $315,000 is all that's left for police raises, it doesn't make any sense at all. Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jeff Van Katwick, correct me if I'm wrong on that name, followed by Tiffany Sayes.
My name is Jeff Van Katwick. The City Council of Bountiful does not do the same job that the City Council of Salt Lake City does. You have extra responsibilities and unique challenges facing you. The same goes with Salt Lake City Police. David Salazar misrepresented the median income of Salt Lake City Police, and it's identical to the maximum income. Those two can't be the same. If one person makes less than the maximum, that lowers the median. 1% raise to the Salt Lake City Police Department is offensive. We can't be compared with the local departments. We need to be compared nationally, since we face different challenges and have many, many more responsibilities than the other local agencies. Thank you.
Thank you. Tiffany Sayes, followed by Mike DeTola.
Hello, City Council. My name's Tiffany Says, obviously. I work for the Salt Lake City Police Department. I've thought I had this prepared better than I do, but bear with me. The mayor is not here. I was going to semi-quote something that she brought up during our Fallen Officer Memorial. She even acknowledged that we are the only group of employees within the city that truly have to worry about whether or not we're going to come home alive at the end of our shift. A lot of this concept, this budget year, has seemed like, equity for all. Everybody deserves a raise. Everybody's the same. And, when it comes down to it, we're not the same at all. I don't know how many of you in this room every single day have to worry that you may not come home to hug your children at night because of your job. And I think that's kind of what we're trying to get across. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and spit numbers at you because it's not something I'm good at, to be honest, or I probably wouldn't be a cop. But, we're never really off duty, and I think that's something else that's important to note. If we're driving into work and we see something on the freeway, if I'm in my unmarked car, I'm still going to stop and handle it. That could be the end of my life, helping somebody on the side of the freeway. And to continue to compare us kind of in this global group of everyone, I think is insulting to our profession, and I don't think that that helps everybody actually acknowledge what we really do every single day. We're expected to kind of operate like a supercomputer and make snap decisions in milliseconds and analyze everything around us, and yet, we're derided, we're subject to all this scrutiny just because of what we do. And to hear them say like, oh, well, here's another 32 cents for you an hour, that's how much you're worth to us, is a little offensive, I'll be honest. So we brought our families, all of us here tonight, to kind of show you guys, we're here on our own time. We came here because it's this important to us, that you guys see that we are people who chose a really awesome but kind of crazy and kind of ridiculous job that we don't get a lot
Time.
of support for. But we're just hoping that you hear what we have to say. Okay? Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Sayes, and your family for coming tonight. Mike DeTola, followed by Bernie Hart.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak and address the council. I don't envy your position. I understand it's got to be very challenging. I want to address you as a researcher in addition to an officer for the Salt Lake City Police Department. My area of focus is on the impacts of chronic exposure to
Sorry to
traumatic
interrupt.
stress.
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, I apologize. Also not very good at the public speaking thing. So I'm also a researcher in addition to an officer, and my area of focus is the impact of chronic exposure to traumatic stress that the men and women who serve this community experience. And I heard one thing throughout this process of negotiations talking about wages and compensation. The message that came back to me as a line officer was, you're going to have to get creative. We don't have the money. And I just want to say one thing. That's not our job to get creative, and I would ask the council to consider that. Our job is to deal with the impacts of the stress and the job that we do on a daily basis. Personally, it was my job to go for months without being able to take my clothes off and go to bed because I'm dealing with PTSD and some of the things that we've been exposed to. And I say we because I know we've all been exposed to it. Please don't pass the buck back to us.
Thank you, Mr. DeTola. Bernie Hart, followed by Eric Philbrick.
Bernie Hart. I didn't come tonight to speak about raises for the police department, but I have a suggestion. I recently requested from the police department data on Operation Diversion because we're getting a lot of mixed numbers back on the effectiveness of the treatments that connected with the programs. We're hearing a lot of mixed information, and we're hearing a lot of claims for success of this program from a lot of different people. And we don't see any proof that this is actually happening, and it's happening. We don't see any impact on the streets. We don't see anything anywhere. And when I asked the police department for this information, and I asked the mayor's staff for this information, I was asked to submit a grammar request. And this is for data that the city and the police are using supposed to be using on a regular basis to support their claims of success. I'm here to ask the council, before you approve the budget, for any further treatment connected with Operation Diversion, that you get some useful up-to-date data. When I got information today, before they closed my grammar request file, they gave me information that was 8 months old, nothing current. And so what I'm going to suggest, that if this program is failing, that you take that money and put it where it can be used in dealing with the homeless problem and pay the police with it. Use it to support raises and reward their officers that are on the street dealing with the homeless all the time. But do not further fund anything, any treatments connected with any homeless issues or Operation Diversion until you get some data. And if you get it, I'd like to see it, because I'll be filing another request tomorrow. And we shouldn't have to do this. Those that care about the homeless and those that care about bringing success for the city and want to see something positive happen, we need some information that it is happening, and it is happening how people say it is. So thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Eric Philbrick, followed by Debbie Downs.
I'm reading this for Michael Millard. He wanted to be here today, but he's out of town training this week, and he can be reached by phone. I'll be moving through this quickly. It'll take longer than 2 minutes. I have another officer that'll finish it if I'm not able to do so. I was the association president during the year the mayor ran for election and during the mayor's first year in office. From 2013 to 16, I've done everything I can to work with the city to obtain fair wage survey for police officers. When I started, Mayor Becker refused to meet with the Salt Lake City Police Association and discuss the topic. Negotiations were a foregone conclusion, and the city refused to negotiate in good faith. We are told almost every year there is no money. The only time we get anything that resembles a wage increase is the year prior to an election, when the candidate hopes it will result in an endorsement of some kind. But next year, we are back to where we started, with there is no money, and that continues for the next 4 years. This has resulted in a 16 to 18% deficit in wages when compared to cities similar in size and responsibility to Salt Lake City. We only ask for an honest negotiation. We couldn't get it from Becker or his administration, so we went out and looked for an honest candidate. We thought we found one in Jackie Biskupski. She told us the employee comes first. We would be included in the process, and she would answer the phone when we called, and she had an open door policy. She would personally negotiate with us. Mayor Becker only met with us to ask for an endorsement. Mayor Biskupski promised things would be different if she was mayor. She was the employee candidate. She appeared to be appalled at the approach from Becker's administration. Twice she told our members there is no city in Utah that compares to Salt Lake City, so we should not compare Salt Lake City with any other city in the state. Now, the same people who messed up under the Becker administration were left in charge under her administration. The same games are being played, but on an even grander scale. We did not only address, okay, another will finish that later.
Thank you, Mr. Philbrick. And Debbie, I'm sorry, I saw now that you didn't wish to speak, and we did get your comments through email. So, Mark D. Whitaker, please come up, followed by James Berenson.
Hi. I believe I have about 3 classic ways that you might be able to save money in the Salt Lake City budget and also improve the quality of environmental concerns. The first, I believe, is a good idea to change the road surfaces throughout the city. Every time you have a particular docket come up to bear, you ought to consider the prospect of putting in cement rather than asphalt. Asphalt has a tendency to have oil run off it, and in turn it goes into the gutter, and from the gutter it goes into our city rivers and streams. So I think you should certainly consider the prospect of a study that would determine whether or not these facilities, when they come on docket, can be replaced the asphalt with cement. Second thing I thought of is that there's a great deal of wear and tear on our facilities by the library when we have 3 consecutive events during the heat of the summer that wears out the lawn. Now, I propose that we move the gay facility elsewhere and reduce the prospect of the wear and tear to the library in these facilities. And third, I think in the event of an earthquake, the Salt Lake City downtown library would be a disaster area. It's time to remove the glass and create a few jobs and restructure that particular building. If there was an earthquake in this downtown Salt Lake City library, with all of that glass that's there, it could be a real shame to see the number of people that would be injured in the event of that event. You can come up with a much better solution than what's there and balance out between the two types of products that there are. There's a type of clear polyurethane that is common in our city bus lines or our L trains, and it's very durable, very reliable. So you can balance the glass that's in that particular building with the clear polyurethane.
Time. Thank you,
This
Mr.
would be a
Whitaker.
good project for us to do. Thank you.
Thank you. James Berenson, followed by Eyal Kalashniku. Please correct me on that one.
Greetings, comrades. Thank you for letting me address the Politburo. You thought I forgot that, didn't you? The climate. Last Thursday, Mayor Liarpants, she said that the temperatures in Salt Lake are rising, I think it was drastically. I looked up the temperature for the past 3 days, and June 5th, the record was 98 in 2008. June 6th was 95, and that was in 2006. Tomorrow, June 7th, was a 100 in 1985. I don't know where she gets her data from, but I was wondering if she actually had some scientific facts to support her claims. Why can't you answer?
This isn't a give and take time, but
I've seen you guys, I've
that-
seen an older gentleman come in here and he asks how
Excuse-
y'all are doing, and you guys respond to him. Why can't you respond to me?
I'll give you a courtesy of saying we're doing fine, but I'm
I
not.
don't care how
but
you're doing.
I'm
I
not
want
sure that
answers to
anyone
my
in front of you
questions.
can supply the scientific information you're asking for, but we could connect you with the mayor's office to do that.
They won't do anything. They're scared. I've heard a lot of talk about equality, and I'm sure this is going to piss some people off. I have no problem with, I don't know what else to call them, homosexuals. They can do their thing. That's their business. But I've always heard about equality, and now the mayor has come out and said it's homosexual month. Why can't we have a heterosexual month? That would be equality. It's been 1:28.
Yeah.
Why-
He still
why-
has 30
He
seconds.
has 30 seconds.
See, can I get a recount for this interruption? You guys are wasting my damn
I've
time.
stalled the timer.
Taxes. You know, this is one of the things I keep speaking about to y'all, is that you guys keep raising taxes. I run out of money, I have no one to tax. You guys should spend the taxpayers' money more frugally on things that are important to the infrastructure, the safety, and the welfare, not stupid, idiotic plans like a flashing crosswalk sign. You guys wasted, I don't know how much money on a flag thing.
Time.
And now you have the flashy lights. And to the men and women in the police force, you know, if the blue flu hits, let these politicians dig their way out of that.
Eyal Kalashniku, please, sir, will you please? Kalishniku, you say it poetically, it's beautiful, thank you for correcting me, followed by Chad Smith. Mr.
Thank you for the
Kalishniku.
opportunity. I'll get started right away. As this meeting has tackled or attempted to tackle budgetary matters, first off, I would like to say thank you, Madam Chair, for attempting to pronounce my name correctly first, and for the opportunity, and to the mayor in her absence, David Litvak, I've had exchanges with you in the past, and this goes in part towards the mayor's office. I'm hoping that in a perfect world, I would be able to define and have a little bit more time to explain and kind of identify what intersectionality is to those who don't know, but it's impossible to do in 2 minutes. I'm hopeful that the current mayoral administration won't be defined by trying to either sweep under the rug, criminalize those at the bottom of our society, or using hired guns to somehow aim and fire at societal dysfunctions, so prevalent around the Rio Grande area in particular. Right now, the city's image seems to be a priority, and I'm sure that largely has to do with the LDS faith. The gentleman who was speaking about the homeless community, I wanted to catch him, but I was next on the queue, so I had to come up. So I wanted to send this to everyone as well. It was very interesting as a matter of budgetary concern to me as a taxpayer in the city as to why the city and the county can't really be on the same page. That was made clear in the news that was on today by them going back and forth prioritizing that. I want to close by saying I agree with the gentleman who mentioned something about using projects, or not using projects, but service. This will be made clear by not just hiring a few people of color to be on the mayor's staff, representing the African refugee communities or representing other people of color, but to attend things like Juneteenth. That was made a proclamation by the county. I close.
Thank you, Mr. Kalishnikov. Chad Smith, followed by Kim Herberg.
Thank you. The same games are being played, but on an even grander scale. She not only did not address the national or regional wage survey, her staff wrote a policy to make sure they keep it local. This is getting old and we're getting tired of it. We are sick of being told next year. The city needs to be caught up on the basis first. Bike lanes, solar panels, electric weed whackers, the new theater. We've spent close to $200 million on these projects. It's too late to do the new wage survey for this year, so this is what we ask. 5% now, and a commitment to be honest moving forward. Inflation raises about 3% a year, so anything less is a step backwards. Set a goal to bring us where we should be. Require the mayor to bargain in good faith next year. This would include things like providing us with the numbers early in the process. Last year's numbers are useless. Complaining about an expenditure from last year is too late. Mayor Biskupski, it appears you lied to us. When you tried to meet with Mr. Millard, as you promised, you refused to meet with him. The mayor has become an anti-labor candidate. In fact, if you are not covered under a union, your raise is twice as much. So we urge the city council. The mayor refuses to negotiate in good faith. It is now in your hands to fix for this year and help us come to a resolution to work together next year and the year after until we are where we should be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Kim Herberg, followed by Pete Sowers.
Good evening. This is a first for me, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to address the council for a moment, and I do so with all due respect to your positions, and I thank you for your service to the community also. I have been a police officer for 35 years, almost, in September, and during that time period, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to serve our community as a peace officer and do what we can to protect and preserve the peace. During that time, like a lot of officers, I've worked a lot of extra jobs. Currently, for many years, I've held down 3 jobs, full-time as an officer, 2 part-time jobs with the department, sometimes putting in 15-hour days, 16-hour days, and most of the officers in this room do that. We do that to make ends meet. And I think that most of the citizens in our community support us. I've received a lot of nice comments lately, thank yous and thumbs up, and we appreciate what you do. And we appreciate the citizens, and we're here for all of you. We're here to support you, to help you. We put our lives on the line for you every day. We would all be grateful. We've asked for a pay increase. I think it's fair. We've watched the city for years work on many projects patiently, and I hope that the council will consider our requests and grant us with a sustainable wage. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Herberg. Pete Sowers, followed by Travis, I think it is Burp.
Good evening. Unlike Kim, I've only been here 23 years, so I don't have quite his depth of knowledge with the pay going back and forth. But what I can tell you, since I've started, 1,500 people applied when I tested, 1,500. Now, we get maybe 300 to the PT test. The money isn't everything. We came into this job not expecting to get rich. We do it for a myriad of reasons. Some people, it's just, they like the diversity of the work. Every day is a new challenge. Get to think on your feet. You're not stuck to a desk. The bottom line, though, is we're losing people. We've got 2 retiring, 2 cards this week, 2 more. People are leaving faster than we can replace them. With the numbers that are out there, we're not as attractive as we used to be. When you can go to Bountiful, Draper, have a reduced call load, a heck of a lot less stress, and make more money, that's a win-win. I'm looking at the queue tonight, I'm like, okay, great. Right now, we're holding 20-something calls on the west side. We're at 75% strength. It's going to be a great night. Hopefully, nobody gets shot at tonight. 2 weeks ago, we had a nice little pursuit. You may have seen it on the news. Officers getting shot at. One officer, it's his second time. He didn't get hit this time. But he's doing it for $66,000 a year, and 1% is all we can do for him. You know, those are some tremendous people out there that are giving their all, and we'd like to just ask that you think about the compensation in that we can continue to attract the best and the brightest, because we have for years. People came here because this was the place. Better training, better people. That's why I came here. We need to continue that trend. If we can't continue that, we've pillaged from all over the valley.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sowers. Travis, will you correct me on your last name if I've got it wrong? Bird or Burp, followed by Murray Mullinox. Travis here? No? Yes, I think. Oh, please come and speak. Followed by Murray Mullinox.
First of all, please forgive me, I'm very, very nervous.
You're welcome to be here.
I met the mayor about 3 weeks ago when she was nice enough to give me a picture. I put it on Facebook, and I have a jazz page, and everybody says, you should get the mayor to get a sign that says, Stay Hayward. And I got volunteered to come here. I really don't know what I'm doing, but the woman that I met outside said, I want to meet with somebody afterwards to see if she could do that, if that's what I'm... I don't know what I'm doing, I'm sorry.
You're okay. You want to talk about Hayward?
No, I want the mayor to have a picture to say, go Hayward.
Can we ask someone from the mayor's office to speak with Mr. Burp?
Madam Chair?
afterward? Yes.
A moment of personal privilege. I think we can do one better for you afterwards. Why don't you get a picture with all of us council for Stayward? All of us, let's do that.
I would also
You're
like to
volunteering
say,
the council
Yeah,
for
I'll
that one.
volunteer you.
police officers are doing a wonderful job. Thank you. I meet most of you guys when I'm trying to get autographs and everything, and you're very, very nice. And you guys have been very, very nice.
Well, thank you, Mr. Burp.
And thank you, Mr. Bildad. Bye.
Murray, you're up next, followed by Jeremy King.
Good evening. My name is Murray Mullinax. And again, I want to thank you guys also for allowing people to come and this public comment period. I think it's a great thing for people to do, and I've certainly enjoyed hearing a lot of the comments from people earlier. I was looking at the mayor's proposed budget, and I know it's a very small item, but on the second or third page of the commentary, there's a line item that says one of the decreases for this year is a $200,000 shortfall in fees from the regional athletic complex. I was here this was probably 2008, 2009. I'm not sure. I don't know if any of you guys were here as in the audience. I don't think any of you were on the council at that time. But at that time, my comment was that it seemed like very rosy predictions for the amount of money that we were spending at the regional athletic complex. And you might remember it was a very controversial project because it was being built on wetlands. And that was a big concern to me, and I voiced those concerns at the time. So I don't know if the word is vindicated, maybe, when I read the $200,000, or disappointed, I suppose, is really what it was. I was disappointed when I saw a $200,000 shortfall in the funds from our new regional athletic complex. And I just wanted to point that out to you guys. And when you're thinking about the budget for this year, it would seem to me that some sort of fee increase or something to rectify that would be appropriate. And frankly, I was here 2 or 3 years ago, or possibly a little bit more. There seem to be a lot of parallels on the rosy projections that we have for the new performing arts complex. And I certainly hope that we don't get in the same situation on that. So thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Mulinax. Jeremy King? Is Jeremy with us? Then we'll move on to Scott Hall. If Jeremy's in the hallway, come on in and we'll squeeze you in. But Scott Hall, please come up, followed by Jennifer Overman.
I was told I couldn't swear, and I was told I couldn't clap, so I will not swear and I will not clap while I'm up here. I'm a police officer, been here for 12 years, love working for the city. In that 12-year period, our wages have been frozen. Okay, and the thing that's irritated me is in that time period, there was I don't know what you want to call it, but we got our vehicle take-home fee that was increased dramatically because of fuel costs. Fuel costs have been down now for about 5 years, but yet we're still paying that same rate to cover the difference in fuel cost for the city. I think that's a little bit ridiculous that they tell us, hey, one thing, we're gonna raise your taxes or raise your fuel costs for your vehicles to take them home when it's an asset to the city to have them there. When we're stopping and helping people change flat tires on the side of the road, stopping domestics, people attacking people, when we're off duty, we're not on the clock. Those vehicles are an asset to the city, but yet we're being taxed to drive them to and from work. That's on top of the wage negotiations and treating us unfairly, where we don't get the proper numbers that we need to negotiate properly until after the fact. I think that the city council is educated enough to know that we are an asset to the city and we should be treated as such. We're not a stepchild. We shouldn't be put in a closet and told to, be quiet, be quiet. We've done that too many years. I would hope that some of you will probably be the future mayor, one of you, and hopefully you'll look at us as an asset and ask for us to back you in that time period. And think about that right now. Look past the badge, look past the uniform, look at the people, look at the reasons that we're here. Keep those people here, keep the good people coming to work and back us, keep the city safe. Because like Pete Sauer said, 1,500, when I tested there was over 1,000, and it's disappointing to go to the test now and see less than 300 applicants. Half of those can't even pass the background. And the future for the city police is short. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Jennifer Overman, followed by Laura Cushman.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to me today. I appreciate everything that you do for us and for the citizens of the city. First off, I am a wife and I am a mother, and I chose to be a police officer. And I understand that when I made that choice, we need a lot of things that will affect me as a person and my family, including the part where I might not come home. And when I heard that we needed to be creative, to second some of the other comments, and that we're gonna get 1%, that hurt to go home and have to tell my family that's what we're worth to the city and to the citizens. It doesn't even cover the cost of living increase. Everything is going up. It's actually almost taking a pay cut. And I know that as a citizen myself, that the people deserve more than 1% for their police officers. The citizens, you guys deserve more than 1%, because all those cool things like the bike lanes and the parks, if you don't feel safe using them, they're pointless. Safety is paramount. And I think that we deserve more, and I hope that there's a way that it can be found, that there's some extra money somewhere that can be given to make our citizens feel that they are worth more than 1%. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Overman. Laura Cushman, followed by Darren Snipes.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here because I want to second Jen Colby's statements, and I want to support David Iltis's editorial that was published today in Cycling Utah, because I have similar sentiments that we need to place greater emphasis on infrastructure improvements that promote active transportation within our city. Comprehensive infrastructure improvements and clean air go hand in hand. Cars contribute 30% of carbon emissions. If we want less cars on the road, then we need to give people better options. People are more likely to walk and ride bikes when they feel safe. We need to address the broken sidewalks, missing curb cuts, and lack of street lighting. Additional bike lanes and trails, treatment of potholes, and systematic sweeping of the roadside are just a few of the ways that we can enhance the rider experience. I ask you to accelerate the bicycle master plan and increase funding for infrastructure improvements that will promote biking and walking in the 2017-2018 fiscal year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cushman. Darren Snipes, followed by Tyler Tomlinson.
Well, the wind has been taken out of my sails a little bit by Officer Sowers and some of the other officers that spoke to a lot of the stuff I was going to talk about, but I did want to say a little extra. I've been with this department for over 20 years, 21, 22, something like that. I've lost count, but after about 20 years in law enforcement, I decided to retire and go to what I thought was bigger, better, greener pastures. I went to Texas, a long way away. I went to Austin, Texas, and I worked there for a year for great pay, for a much better retirement system than we have here. Unfortunately, there's legislation that was passed that makes that hard for us to get and retain people in the police force. I know that's not something you guys can deal with, but as far as the pay is concerned, being competitive, that's what drew me to Austin. The only reason I'm back is because I didn't have family in Austin and I missed the mountains and whatnot here, but that's all I knew was Salt Lake. I loved working for Salt Lake, not because of the pay, but because of the people I worked with. But as Officer Sowers and a couple of the other officers have said, we used to have, when I hired on, I had a couple thousand applicants that was testing with me. Now we have 300. And out of those, like was said before, less than half, actually make it through the whole process. And we have a few people to choose from. If we want quality people working for us, if we want people to stay with us, the pay's what people look at. And like was said before, the 1% pay raise, it's kind of a slap in the face. It's been going on ever since I've been here on the police department. It seems like it's been a constant battle, and we get 1%, sometimes 0% pay freezes, but it would be nice to be able to see that we have the respect and the
Time.
Anyways, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Snipes. Tyler Tomlinson, followed by Mike Boyd. And I'm running low on cards here, so if you think you want to speak, raise your hand.
Hi, how you doing? My name is Tyler Tomlinson. I'm going to talk to you guys about the lateral officers for a little bit. The laterals are officers who come from other agencies. So Salt Lake City is the best police department I've ever worked for. I've worked for 3 agencies, okay? And by far, I'm extremely impressed with these guys, these men and women in blue. This is by far the best police agency in the state. You guys have the best. A year and a half ago, we had lateral classes, people crawling over each other, fighting for those positions to come over here from other agencies. A year and a half ago, we had a class of 18. 6 months after that, we had a class of 14. After that, we had 12. The last one that we just had, we had 9. The next one coming up, I only have 1 officer from up north coming from OPD, 1 from up north. We've got to look at that and what's happening. Why are we, you know what I mean? This is the best police agency in the state. We had the best benefits. We had the best pay. We're losing those guys. We're losing that valuable experience. We can get those lateral officers trained and on the street within 6 weeks. 6 weeks, they're back there on the street. They're taking calls. People that are waiting 3 or 4 hours for these calls, it's not happening. But what happens is so many people retire, we need more officers to fill those spots. Those laterals are a key to filling those little gaps between the new guys coming out. Does that make sense? And we got to stay competitive or we're going to lose all the the laterals coming out here. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Tomlinson. Mike Boyd, followed by Adam Stone.
Good evening. I stand before you to ask you to recognize what it is you and the citizens demand, mandate, and sometimes ask of us police officers. We, as stated by many, are required to wear several hats under our sworn hat as a police officer. We are expected to be experts and most of the time perfectionists when wearing these hats. Some of these hats are counselor, therapist, psychologist, legal counsel, negotiator, social worker, and this is just to name a few. The most current and popular hat this city, the mayor, and the chief of police like is the de-escalator hat. This hat comes with an award. In the most dangerous situation, if we decide to ultimately forego training, chance our life, and chance that by pure luck, beating statistical odds, we don't use force, we just use our voice, and in the most dangerous situation, we will be awarded and recognized as a de-escalator. Your officers de-escalate every day, day in and day out. Now in the same situation, if we choose differently and we use force that is reasonable and justified by law, well then we become judged, ridiculed, and even blamed for the lack of good judgment. Society instantly becomes qualified experts in our line of work. What I have just mentioned is one of many reasons why across this nation and even locally, recruiting numbers are down. It's getting harder and harder to find qualified people who want to do this job or even continue to do this job for the current pay. I ask you all to think what it's worth to the citizens of Salt Lake that you represent and what the city pays its guardians who serve to preserve life, maintain human rights, protect property, promote individual responsibility and community commitment. I ask you all to dig deep and find more than the insulting 1%. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. Adam Stone, followed by Joshua Harris, and that's the final card I have.
Thanks again for taking everybody's comments. So I just wanted to say that the wonderful men and women that you see behind me in uniform are drastically overworked and underpaid. I've had many, many positive interactions with the police in my neighborhood near 5th South and 800 South and 5th East. However, if you call 911 about something that maybe isn't quite a life-threatening emergency, but still an emergency, you're put on a 5 to 8 hour waiting list. Like I've had a theft that we reported, and granted that's not, a terrible emergency, that we reported at 5 o'clock and then had officers show up at about midnight to take it. To their credit, they did show up. But there's just not enough people to take on these calls. We need to fairly pay our public servants and employ more officers to meet the needs of the community. Our neighborhoods would greatly benefit from some more community policing. We need to see more officers on foot in our neighborhoods. And as another gentleman said earlier, our police face many more challenges than other police forces in Salt Lake, and they deserve a higher pay based on that.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. Joshua Harris, and that's the last card I have.
Hi, thank you for letting me come and speak. My 5-year-old's been telling me every day for the last couple of days, I want to be a police officer, Dad. I want to go out and I want to help people. And I smile because it's really cute. He wants to be like his dad, but I tell him, no, you don't want to be a police officer, son, because retirement these days has gone down to 33% from 50%. We don't pay our officers where we should be paid. And I came over here from Draper 2 years ago, and I spoke with Derek Johnson 4 hours before he was shot in line of duty and killed. And I fought and struggled with nightmares for over a year. I go to church and I have anxiety attacks because I can't hear people coming in thinking I'm going to get shot, or if people are going to get shot, I'm going to have to go out and I have to go and try to protect these people in this church. When I should be there not worrying about that. I should be there being able to be with my family, be with God, and be with my church. And I came here and I got a nice raise. I'm not going to lie about that. I got a nice raise coming here. And I lost I was number one on patrol at Draper. I had number one seniority. I could choose any shift I wanted, where I wanted to go, at any time I wanted to go. I could go anywhere, but I came here because I had more opportunity to move. I got better pay, but with the idea that I was going to be my seniority, and I did, and I had to work afternoons on weekends. I worked that for 2 years. I finally got a little bit better shift, but I'm still afternoons. I miss my boys' baseball games. To come here, and I love this city. I love working for this department. It was worth it. But now I'm sitting there wondering, I'm like, Draper now pays more than we do. Was it really ultimately worth it now? We left, and Draper goes, we're losing all of our good officers to Salt Lake City. We're doing something wrong. So we're gonna give our officers raises, and they did. And now officers aren't coming over here. Officers from Ogden, who a whole bunch came over, aren't coming over. So just think about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Ups and downs. And that's my last card.
How you doing? My name's Ups and Downs, and I'm going to do something a little different. With your blessing, I'd like to give you a 20-second window of something that we go through. Are you guys okay with that? Remember, I'm a police officer, so no one's going to get hurt, no one's going to be touched or anything like that. But I want you to see something that we go through. Is that okay?
Is it going to violate any of the codes I read at the beginning?
Probably not.
Were you here when I read the codes of conduct at the
Yes, ma'am.
beginning?
Yes, I was. It's 20 seconds.
Okay.
Okay.
Madam City Attorney, should I say yes to this?
Your discussion, Madam Chair. I am pausing while you are asking.
Oh,
I'll
he's
start-
approaching the
I'll start
dais
timing.
now. This is highly unorthodox, sir.
That was less than 20 seconds, correct?
Probably.
Now, that's the type of thing we deal with on the street. People don't follow the rules. How did that make you feel in this controlled environment, also knowing that I'm a police officer? You're uncomfortable. Now think about how the kids feel when transits go by or these criminals go by and speak to them in ways they shouldn't. Or out-of-town people come to visit and they go through Rio Grande and have to deal with these people. They don't have the comfort of being in a secure area, a place where they feel safe. They're dealing with a stranger that can flip out or act in ways that they can't predict. You're asking us to take on more responsibility for nothing. We enjoy this job. We're going to stay here doing this job. All we ask is take care of us. Simple as that. Think how you feel. Think how your kids feel if that were to happen. And these were small, simple rules. Out there, there's laws they're breaking. And we have no recourse. We can't take them to jail for drug possession. We give them citations that they don't have to pay attention to because judges won't do anything about it, or they can't do anything about it. But it's a cycle, and we keep dealing with it. We smile. We try and make those connections. It's just something I want you to think about. We're grateful for this job. We'd just like you to take care of us.
Thank you, Mr. Downs. That was the final comment card I had. Raise your hand if you haven't filled out a card and you still have something to say and you haven't had a chance to speak yet. Otherwise, I'm going to look for a motion. We don't need a motion. It's general comments. Are we done, folks? There's no new business or unfinished business items today. We're now on to the consent portion of our agenda. I'll look for a motion.
Move for approval.
I have a motion by Councilmember Rogers, a second by Councilmember Kitchen. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. This concludes our formal meeting, and I want to thank all of you and your families for coming out to speak with us tonight.
Council members?